All right, gentle listeners, you're in for a treat. I just got out of the recording studio with the amazing, the illustrious Grace Harry, author, music executive for the last 25 years with big names, Island Def Jam and Jive Records, married celebrities, those of which who named songs after her. I mean, her life has been an amazing journey of triumph, trials, and definitely tribulations. But she found that through it all, foster kid, being mixed race, so many of the challenges that so many of us can resonate with today, her life did not begin to really take shape into the form she was looking for until she decided to focus on joy. So the question is, how do we get more intentional about finding joy in our lives? And what you'll find is that all roads lead to joy when you're courageous enough to just follow your heart. So join me for a fun-filled, fast-paced episode of Kushae Chronicles.
But what are we learning pre-verbal? Don't say the truth to that person. Tell people that one thing, even though it's kind of a lie, it's better. So we are learned and we're taught, we're pre-taught, and then we're self-taught to lie to our balance. The balance isn't like every day is going to be great or every day is going to be shitty. The balance is, okay, for this 1 second, I feel really good in here. I love you and I trust that you meant something positive, but I got triggered. Can we take a minute to figure out what, like, literally second by second, step by stepping into keeping that feeling you want alive in your heart?
Welcome, gentle listeners. You are now tuned into Kushae Chronicles. I am your host, Kimba the Natural Diva, and I am here to deliver you real talk with real women about real health and life. Today, I am deliciously excited to bring on our next podcast guest, Ms. Grace the Beautiful Harry. Hi, Grace. How are you?
I am so good. Thank you for all of that. That was beautiful. I love Kimba, the natural diva, to start.
The Natural Diva. Yes.
Yes, and this is already fun. I'm excited already.
Exactly. So pre-recording, you guys, we were back in the studio before we hit the record button, just yucking it up and talking about everything from celebrity life to OnlyFans, but we're going to talk about that later. We're going to just, that's a teaser for everybody in the audience. So, Grace, I
Certainly.
am so excited to have you. You are a little bit of everything. I know that you're an author. I know that you are a music executive, that you've been doing that for a number of years. Obviously, you're also a daughter, a friend, and just a beautiful spirit all around. So, I have so many things. I don't even know where to start with you, but I think I'm going to start with you being an author because we're going to work our way backwards.
Okay.
There is a book that you so eloquently wrote called The Joy Strategist. And I think in these times, we're in 2024, but of course, this podcast will live on forever. But right now, we are dealing in some of the most tumultuous times that I think I've seen, in my 40 something years of being on this planet. And people need the work that you're doing right now. We need to find intentional ways to stay happy and to be joyful and to find bliss. So, talk to me a little bit about how you got to become an author, what led you to that, and what is being a joy strategist, and what are you trying to help people with?
All right. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Loaded question.
Well, yes, thank you so much. The book was my first real big dream labor of love, and it had many beginnings and many iterations. It started from I was a new mom. I was
Mm,
26 years old, and I had a two and a half year old, and we were on a bus in New York City, and I remember just becoming so insanely clear how
mm.
everybody the first time they're a parent is an amateur, and yet
Literally,
there's
literally,
so
there's no book
there's no
ever.
book. And more than there's no book, there's so many things that you need all this accreditation and all these letters behind
Mm,
your name to do. But the most important job in the universe, creating, building, growing a future adult, there's no information. And so I
right,
started to really lean into that because I believe in God of whatever everyone's understanding is. And so that can't be the way for us to just come into something that important with no information,
right,
unless it's an opportunity for our own rebirth. It's an opportunity
right,
for us to right some of those, I hate to use the word wrongs, but it's coming in so strongly. Right some of those behavioral complications that other
right.
amateurs are inflicting on these new humans to grow them based on the information they have at the time.
Mm,
So we were on
right.
a bus and we had a situation And I was so upset about what my daughter experienced that day on the bus that I went home and that night wrote 111 pages of a book called Raising Powerful People, Starting with Yourself. And this
Wow.
concept that we get to these points, you go to kindergarten, you learn math, but you'll have math your entire educational career, just
Right.
different levels on it. But yet, our internal work, our work of growing ourselves and leaning into our experiences of life, we seem to feel like you learn the basics and then you're supposed to have an exemplary life for the rest of your days from that. And that's not true.
Right.
There's
That's
so
not
much you can
that's
do.
not it
Right. It's something,
at
was it the
all.
thing like every 7 days our cells change or something? But we truly are
Mm.
different people every time we have a new experience, a new awakening, a new conversation. And that
Right.
we're not making space in our lives for the beauty and the openness of our own rebirth and our own growth and our own processes. So now cut
Mm.
to, I'm in the third marriage. I'm in a marriage now that feels aspirational from the world at large. And yet I feel
Right.
like shit. I feel so alone, so miserable, scared, trapped, all of these experiences I never had before. And what I'm
Right.
realizing is that, holy shit, there's nothing more important to me in the world than raising my children and raising the gift children that I have from these different marriages. And yet
Right.
I myself can't access joy. I can't access there's this concept of happy. I felt like was so put on me from people based on what they needed from me. And then my brain,
Mm.
me surviving, and my ego got together and was like, okay, great. We'll make this happy person who's hyper responsible and hyper vigilant and taking care of others, because that's what the baby brain in me and my pre-verbal self realized would keep me safe. But what was
Ah,
interesting
so we're
about,
going to talk about that too, because
oh,
that
I
baby
really
brain
want
was
to get to that.
formed. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
No, this is the most important thing to me, what you're hitting on, is that
Yeah.
we are born and a lot of other species are born with more skills, right? You're a horse, you
Mhm.
get up and walk quickly. But we come in
Literally.
this little fragile egg of a glass thing, and we have to
Mm.
learn everything. And one of the first things we have to learn in our boot camping as survival is, okay, who are the people going to keep me safe? Who's going to keep feeding me? I was in this little beautiful bubble and I was attached to a food feed tube that was coming through. Once I broke
Right.
through and came out in the world, now I got to figure out everything.
Right.
And so
Everything.
everything, and you're relying on this other experience to keep you in the space, but we don't have any words yet. So if
Right.
I come into a space and I have two teenage parents like I have who are really trying to make real life happen, I'm
Hmm.
now creating part of my survival plan grid. Got it. No time for my needs. Don't be a burden. Oh, people like it when you do things for them. Oh, you get love when you make things happen. Oh, you're now the
Yes.
big sister, the big brother. Get over your feelings, even though 2 weeks ago it was all about you. And now you have to move over for someone else. So we
Right.
take these things. These are the beginnings of our Bibles of love, our Bibles of joy, how we
Mm.
work with our own hearts, with which the word courage is one of my favorites because the root of it is a word cur, that's French.
Sure.
And the word
Yes.
cur is heart. So what is courage?
Mm.
It is the bravery to tell the truth of your own heart. But what do we learn in pre-verbal? Don't say the truth to that person. Tell
No.
people that one thing, even though it's kind of a lie, it's better. So we are learned and we're taught, we're pre-taught, and then we're self-taught to lie to ourselves for
Right.
safety.
Every day, every single,
Every
and for
time.
safety. Well, we assume it's for safety, not knowing that this old adage of the truth will set you free is so true on so many levels, but it's the fear of judgment, what people will think, what people will say, and of some immediate consequence that you feel like is going to happen when typically that's not even the case, right? So I want to back up because you said so many things that I want to unpack a little
No,
bit.
perfect. I do this. I got so much.
Yes. Yes, you have so much. So you talk about, being a child and coming into this world with, first of all, your parents have no rule book. And what's astonishing to me is we've been doing this for generations. A gabillion generations later, no one has said, this is kind of what we need to know to do to start shaping minds. Because everything that we're doing unconsciously is shaping minds. It tends to be for not the good, right? It tends to be negatively impacting our children because we're not aware of it. And I think that we're clear now with all the science and the psychology that goes behind, mindset and framing. We're working on it as adults, but we're having to relearn. It would have been different if we were to do that with our children in the beginning. They could have come into this world with a more abundant, positive thinking mindset and all these things that we're now trying to do as adults. But your childhood was very different from many others. You talked a little bit about your parents and being a foster child. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I think that's really framed who you are now, what challenges you've had, and then how you're trying to overcome those today.
Yeah, yes, I keep saying a lot because your questions are a lot. You're loaded. Just the book, right? Yes, it is safety. I really do think it's
Yeah.
safety. I think at that
Yeah.
moment it's safety because who we are at that moment, we need a certain level of safety. And that
Yeah.
book to me was, yes, let's give people the rule book. You go to these
Yeah.
workshops, these retreats, and read all these amazing books. But I need some talk to me like I'm six
Right.
information. So I use a lot of analogies and some basic things of like, this is how you need to raise yourself. This is the community you need around you, a starting five. You need to lean into love and the relationship of yourself first. And
Right.
yeah, that really did come from these young parents. And, my parents were 16 years old and they
Mm.
were different races and they had came from different cultures. And when they got together, it was over a shared passion of activism. And
Mm.
quickly, my mother was pregnant in 1969, turning 70, in a time where being a white woman with a black baby inside was not really going to help you anywhere. And so she
At
had to
all.
find a place that would take her in since nobody else wanted to help her with the situation she was in. And
Wow.
that really the work she had to go to to lose me in that situation and then do the work to fight to get me back was very clear to her that there was a discrepancy in who she was and why she was able to do certain things. And that led to a life of advocacy. I have to slow down,
Mm.
say that word, which is a big passion of mine. Taking the opportunities to see where things are not working, where people are not being supported to make the big change in their lives, to find joy, to live in any level of safety or peace, is something that is not where people lean to in terms of a career choice. So,
Right. Right.
taking the background of this real pain and sadness and anger my mother had at something that was supposed to be a beautiful experience but became so complicated and difficult for her really fueled me to do the work that I do now. And write this book for the world to see how complicated we've made a concept that's so simple, like you said earlier, being
Right.
truthful first with ourselves.
Yeah.
How do I feel getting out of this brain, which is really only an old computer that keeps us safe? Oh, don't
Right.
walk in the street, you're gonna hit by a car. Remember you talked to that woman last time? She gave all your information away. You know what? This relationship is starting to hinder me. I need to get out. These are all
Right.
things the brain does, but what needs to happen is the heart needs the room to really allow you to feel its truth. This is our
Yeah.
own inner GPS. And when we get safe enough to listen to it and not just decide it's evil because it hurt us once before, we then get on the path of our real truth. And
Right.
that's
Exactly.
so complicated.
It's so complicated. A friend of mine was going through a relationship woes the other day, and she broke up with her boyfriend and she was super upset about it. And she sent me this little cartoon clip. And the cartoon clip had a heart in a cage, and the thing outside of the cage was the brain, and he had the key. And so when you talk about being honest with yourself first, you know, but the brain really just wants to keep us safe. It's because, again, brain thinks that heart is the problem. Like, you keep getting out of this cage and causing us heartache, and we're crying and we're emotional, and I don't have time for that, right? I know my brain is like, girl, quit the bullshit and get back in the fucking cage because we ain't got time. And so my brain is hyperactive on locking up little heart because she literally wants to get out of the cage and just jump into the deep end. She's not checking the temperature. She's just like, I love everything. And then he's like, no, we're getting hurt. And so I think people struggle with this balance. Is there ever I don't think balance exists, but is there ever a balance between what your brain understands to be true versus what your heart knows to be true to you? And I think that's the difference. Heart really is saying, this is what matters to us. Brain is like, this is what matters for you to stay alive. And what's right and what's wrong? Does it depend? I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's no such thing as right and wrong. There's
Yeah,
only
that's
a soup. When you go on a roller
right.
coaster at an amusement park, the experience you're having at that on a roller coaster is the closest to actual real life. We just
Mm,
back to the brain with the ego fanning the flame. We are looking for this fake safety or this fake
right.
right or wrong or this where the calm, not the storm. But the truth is, all these practices of meditation, dance, yoga, singing, forest walking, they're all to get you to get your nervous system to relax enough, to feel
Yeah.
safe enough to let the queen rule. And the queen
Mm,
is complicated. It is messy. It is like weather. It is, but the safety that we have to learn is how to ride that wave with our truth being how we feel at every second. And
right.
that is the way you find the balance. The balance isn't like every day is going to be great or every day is going to be shitty. The balance is, okay, for this 1 second, I feel really good in here.
Right.
Hey, what that just happened? I no longer feel good in here. What just happened? Scanning.
Right.
Oh, Kimba said something that hurt my feelings. Okay, truth. I can either now change and have an attitude with Kimba. Our relationship's going to change because my energy will change. Therefore, her energy will change, and then we'll be
Right.
more dynamic. Or I can stop and say, okay, oh, Kimba, I love you and I trust that you meant something positive, but I got triggered. Can we take a minute to figure out what, like, literally, second by second, step by stepping into keeping that feeling you want alive in your heart? When I
Right.
worked in the music industry, it was very evident to me. I'd work at some record labels that were run
Hmm.
a suit. Someone used to be a lawyer, someone used to be a
Always. Aren't they
businessman.
all run by suits? Like,
No,
yeah.
I've had the blessing of one time
Really?
having a company
Ooh.
I worked run by a creative. What
Okay.
it
Then now
was.
that's different.
Now, the business one was always like charts and focus groups and trying to nail the
Mm,
thing. But music is creativity that comes from your heart.
right.
That a massive moment where everyone feels it at once is lightning in a bottle. You
Right.
can't make that happen, but you have to love the process and be in the creativity enough to be happy with whatever happens. And therefore, you're in a state of love and passion and joy with each other. You're workshopping, you're creating things, you're in creation. Creation is the highest vibration of the heart. When we're
Mm,
completely in creation, in the love and passion of what we're doing for a person, for some art, or offering a service in the world. Muhammad Ali, one of my favorite quotes, is that service is the gift to live on this planet. Like, to be in
yes.
service is what you have to pay to be a participant on this world. So when you're in creation at all times, your wheels are turning, everyone else is feeling good. It's like having a whole bus and everyone's singing and everyone's having a good time. But when you're in focus groups and you're letting the brain lean and the ego is fanning the flame to be safe, you're constantly creating a character to be safe. You're creating a projection of what they think is needed here. It's like on social media where I'm like, ugh, I'm thirst trapping. I want all these things versus like,
Bikinis and boobs out and yum yum
yeah,
yum yum.
making this experience that I feel the world wants to have. It's not necessarily my authentic experience.
Yeah.
So the balance is making a mission to be heart centered and to be in joy. And yeah, I want to pull my hair out at how much people really think that what I'm talking about is so luxury and whatever. It's
Right.
essential tool of transformation. Like, I
Right.
couldn't even be more. And the inner work that we are afraid to do, we can hide from it. It'll get you. You'll have an accident, or you'll lose a job or a partner.
Right.
So either understand that the most delicious, sexy, juiciest relationship you could ever have in your life is with yourself,
Yeah.
following your heart completely and trusting it. Sometimes I get so freaked out that I have to walk around my house like, I trust the process. I trust life.
Right.
I trust because I know that when I follow that, that it's going to be magic. But when I get
Right.
scared and run off to the side of the road, I'm lost.
That's
So,
true. You don't feel like you're yourself at all. But people, I mean, Grace, to be honest with you, people will not. Oh, let's talk about why people don't do this.
yes,
People don't do this because, first and foremost, following your heart doesn't always equate to money, and we need money to survive here, right? But I feel like if you are following your bliss, the money will come. And so
that's that.
there's these two schools of thought. Like, oh, I want to, curate experiences for people. Well, that can pay, but you've got to figure out how to do that, monetize that. But if it's truly something that brings you bliss, that's where you should be spending your time. So why do you think people are not? So I think that's one of the reasons. People feel like I can't tie it to money, I can't do this, I have to have a corporate job, whatever that looks like. Why else do you think people are not doing this or even taking this seriously? Because this seems, the word that I used to get all the time when I started delving into this type of inner development for myself was like, it's very woo woo, right?
Yeah.
It's very like granola tree huggy, which is why I'm the natural diva, because I'm like, I'm a diva, but I'm still a bit natural. And in tune with like what it takes to make this dash count, right? You know, people talk about the dash between when you're born and when you die.
Yes.
And what are you doing to make the dash count? Because I would die twice if I knew that I didn't make it count for something. So why do you think people are not doing this? What is the,
Yes.
it's a fear, but what is it?
So when we get back to the earlier story of being these little babies who come into the world and have to figure out what's their mission and what we're supposed to do here, we learn a lot of things pre-verbal. And what
Yeah.
happens in those pre-verbal moments is we have great heartbreak, huge heartbreak.
Mm,
For example, let's say you're my mother and
yeah.
it's day two and I'm sitting in your
Yeah.
arms and you're nursing me or you're giving me a
Oh.
cuddle. Every single love hormone is flying around. If I was an emoji, you would see like, or if I was the little hearts flying up, but I'm
Hard
learning this,
eyes.
yeah, that it's so safe and delicious and amazing here with my love, my first true love. But
Right.
then in the fourth day, somebody calls you and you take the call and you take your eyes away from me. So now I'm having what something's happening that's the worst thing's ever happened in my life.
Right. Like,
I
where
never
is
even was-
she?
Where is she? Then you get bad news. Someone died. You start crying. You take your energy from me. So my son, for example, when he was nursing, he would do this thing where he would squeeze my elbow and
Mm.
he'd do it first. And I was like, oh, that's so cute that Ryden is squeezing my elbow. But I realized, oh, he had a moment where something happened. What happened was his sister came. I took my energy
Mm.
from him, his older sister. So he then realized, oh, he has to keep the love coming. So he started
Ah.
this little habit, and that's what we all do. We all get
Mm. Security
scared.
blanket. Became his little security blanket, your little elbow.
That's right.
Mm.
Whatever the
Mm.
thing is, like I became hypervigilant and looking for love. My dad wasn't around. My mom was super young. I started looking for love everywhere. Are you my love? Are you my love? Are you my love?
Right.
And
Right.
trying anything to keep that going. And we take the information back to this thing of math and kindergarten, math and high school. Now I'm a grown person, but I am still operating on the baby love lesson
Yeah.
because
And
I
that
don't.
pre-brain, you're like 2 months old if you've never developed it. Wherever the trauma kind of disrupted your development, that's where you're stuck. And
But
I
we
think
all
that's why
are.
people don't get it. Yeah, we all are. We're
And
stuck
the
somewhere.
And the brain has got a lot of areas. It's a map. You got your
Hmm.
the frontal cortex, and you got your reptilian.
Occipitals and
Yeah,
the
but
yes.
there's a part of your brain that actually is the partner to the heart.
Oh, which part is that? Do you know?
I have to. I have a map somewhere. I gotta. This is where I'm a 10th grade high school dropout. I'm like, I'll find it and send it to you. But the point is
Okay.
that that is the leader. And the other part of
Ah,
the brains, it's like a hype person on stage is not the star. They're the
right.
person hyping the energy, and that's what ego is here to do. And when you get your
Mm,
heart, when you lean into your heart to lead, and it taps into that love connection that it's evolving every other organ and really leading the brain and where it's going to go, it becomes a different charge in your body and your reality. And then you
mm,
start to do the inner work of recalibrating everything else to be in line with that initiative and that mission. And
right.
when you fall into that mission, everything happens. That's your God self. That's your creation self. Money
Right.
is down that road. Everything is down there. But we
Everything.
make these tiny micro moves all day to readjust and support the brain, and we jump off the trail of the heart. And so
I
we learn
love,
confrontation is
right.
communication.
I love what you said just about jumping the path to everything. Everything is down the path of following your heart. I mean, I don't know, I have goosebumps. That just was like, OMG. Because we don't believe that,
We
right?
no,
We
we're
don't. We're like, no, heart is nice, but
messy.
life is necessary. Life is lifing. And that's cute, but I got to be over here doing the things. And what you're saying is you could be doing all the things you want to do if you just followed your heart,
That's
right?
right.
And so,
It may be a longer
wow,
road. It may be a different road, but
a
that's all
difficult
about the trust.
road,
Right. It's
right?
like the inner work is great. I'm so happy that post pandemic, we are so much more aware than we've ever been. We're more
Right.
conscious, we're more open, but we're still doing it for the gram. We're still
Most
spiritual
of us,
enough to share.
right?
I've been guilty of that at times where it's like, oh, I learned this thing at my yoga retreat, but I didn't go in enough to actually make the real changes.
Right.
And guess what? We don't have a choice. If your
No.
life is amazing and you don't need anything, then ignore us. But if you want partnership and partnership is everything. You want
Yeah.
partnership with your children, partnership with your friends, partnership in the business you start. You want people to really be aligned with you. You want community. You want love. All of that is the same work.
Absolutely. And I would say for myself, what I struggled with is vulnerability. And so there must have been something, I'm still doing the work too, that told my brain that opening up and being honest about how I felt was not okay. So I don't know whether I got slapped down or shunned or whatever the point is, but there's some lesson that happened early on in life for me that suggested that vulnerability was bad. Like no
Oh,
bad. Like don't tell people, stay strong, don't ever show you know what I mean? And I've found that I'm constantly working on being more vulnerable, right? And knowing that it's not going to kill me. It's not the end of the world. And as a matter of fact, I believe it's what will bring about the authentic connections that I'm looking for, right? And so that's that, but it's taking me 40 something years to figure that out, And I'm just
before,
like, or more, it'll take me more, but at least I know now.
before.
Like I've acknowledged it. I'm acknowledging that, and I'm just like, but there's so many people who don't even understand what I mean by that, right? Or not like you're nodding your head. This is some of the work that you've delved into. So I guess the question for me is, how do we start having these conversations with people, right? Obviously, you
Yes.
wrote the book. Where do we begin? Because there are people that are like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is my life. These are the cards I've been dealt. It is what it is. And it's just not what it is. It's actually what you create. And if you decide not to do anything about it, then it is the life that you have. But it could be so different and so much better and so much more joyful. So how do you start the conversation? So when you meet new people, how do you come off as not being crazy woo woo?
Well, I don't use any woo words. I work really hard not to use the woo words because I really do
Right.
think we're now, there's a new kind of segregation in the world because
Mm.
wellness is expensive.
Yeah,
And yet,
very.
and
It's
yet,
almost like a privilege, which is
it is,
unfair. Yeah.
it's not only fair, it's unnecessary. You know, everything that you put your full focus in, like if you saw what was the movie Soul?
Oh, the
John Best,
cartoon?
yeah,
Yes,
John
it was so
Baptiste
good.
and
It's
Chris.
so good.
They
Yes.
talk about being in the zone when you're a musician and you find your lick and you're in the
Yes.
zone, whatever you put into. But, for example, what I love is leaning into the things we already have. So
Mm.
when I started with myself 5 years ago, I've really started working on this and I'm like, okay, I'm ending this relationship. I want my children to do as I do, not as I say, because that's not
Right.
real. And I want them to emulate happy, joyous experiences in life. So let me show them what that looks like. So I leaned into my shadow side. Every
Mm.
time that I was triggered by someone, if someone irritated me, if I was frustrated with them, I was like, oh, work to do. And I met this
Mm.
woman and she got on my last freaking nerve. I she was a mutual friend. I wanted to literally like I couldn't stay as far away
Snatch
as
her
she.
ass up.
Else this one
Just,
was so
ugh.
annoying. And I was like, oh, I'm triggered. She didn't even do
Yeah.
anything to me. So I said,
Mm.
okay, the next time I see her, because there's no escaping her, we're both in this life
Like
coach healing
group.
community.
Right.
So I said, I'm going to spend as much time with her as possible until I can figure out what is the trigger. And I
Wow.
realized what the trigger was is that she believed that anything was open for her. And I was still operating very much like I'm a people pleaser, like I don't get out of line and I don't want to be a
Mm.
burden and I don't want to take up too much space. And so
Right.
I was actually jealous. So what I decided to do was in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to do something every time I'm around her that takes up as much space. And the first time I did it, I was so uncomfortable. I was like, because my brain and hype human ego were like, what are you doing? We
Right. We
worked
don't
hard
do
not to
this.
do
This is too
this.
much for us.
So I was like, oh, there it is. If I'm uncomfortable, then I know I'm on the right path. So it's using all
Ah.
these uncomfortable things to start to lean there. And the flip side, being a good partnership to yourself, everyone always comes to me. I do a lot of intimacy work. I do one-on-one intimacy, teaching people how to be sexy with themselves. I do
Mm.
couples, I do groups, and I love to do groups because I love to teach friend groups and families how to see everyone's bypassing, how to see
Yeah.
when they're hiding, how to learn each other's stuff, to not be mean about it, because all of this work is with full integrity, really being loving. I wouldn't be like, Kimba, I don't like when you blah, blah. I would say, Kimba, may we have a conversation? Do you have space for it?
Right.
Going to be a hard conversation, but I love you so much. I'd rather have this conversation than have our friendship go into a place I don't want it to go. So
Right.
vulnerability is starting there. Then
Mm.
being a good partner to yourself is making sure you start your days as a star of the story. Many of us wake up, we grab our phones, or we take care of our kids or our partners. We don't even give ourselves 3 seconds to cement in our consciousness, in our
Yeah.
reality, that we are important too, that we
Right.
matter too. So coming from both those sides, like starting my day with whatever, back to that segregation, a song that you can listen to for 3 minutes and dance around your bathroom if you have nowhere else to be. Or
Right.
you can lay in your sheets for a few seconds before you even register to anyone in the world, including your pet, that you're awake, and just have gratitude. Oh, I'm so grateful I have a bed. I'm so
Right.
grateful that I woke up. I'm so grateful. So taking those two, Beth, you said before, balancing your world with lessons and love. You
Mm,
wake up in the morning and you're just loving on yourself.
right.
I have one client right now who told me that they have no space for that. They've got 4 kids, they have a job, they don't have 1 second a day. And I was like, okay. So
Yeah,
then
you
you wake
do.
up in the morning, and then I want you the night before you go to bed, you write something with lipstick on your mirror in your bathroom. So when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you say is, Kimba, you're the shit. Kimba,
Right.
you're the best. You're so amazing. Whatever.
I
Make it up.
love you.
I
Right,
love you.
exactly.
Take a take
Anything.
a take a quote that you think's amazing. Tape it, record it in your own voice, and listen to it on your headphones as soon as you wake up. So you hear yourself saying, "Kimba, today you're gonna kill it. You're gonna have the
Mm,
best day." Whatever small things are gonna resonate. If you're a musician but you don't do that anymore, but you loved it as a kid, take 10 minutes a day and play your instrument. Put
right.
those small 4 seconds, 1 minute, any to infuse in your day. You start your day, you're hungry, you're gonna eat food. But where are your joy snacks?
That's
If
oh,
you
I love that. Where are your
if you
joy
can,
snacks? I like Scooby snacks. You need them.
yes. You have practice in the morning where you chant and you sing and you do yoga, but then you go to your office and people are assholes or they're miserable. What did you
Mm,
bring with you prepare? Do you have a little notebook that you can color in? Do you have stickers? Do you have a poem? Is there a song already, a 3 song playlist that, like I have a playlist all day joy that if I need to tap it
mm,
in and I bet hear a song. So that is so important, is setting yourself up to win. And if you can't
mm.
access that anywhere, I tell all my clients and friends, what would you say to me? What would you say to your kid? What would you say to your partner? Or my favorite, we don't know how to do any of this, right? We go home at night, put on crappy clothes, we eat something from takeout, but let a new lover come over. It could
Oh,
be 2 in the morning. All of a sudden, we're going to put on makeup, get cute, make a meal. So if you could do 10% of that for yourself,
right.
and then start to be uncomfortable as your medicine. So, like, oh, okay, I just met that person. I don't like it at all. Okay, you know what? That's real too. Maybe that's
Right.
not the person for you right now. Maybe that's not the
Mm-mm.
season for that human. Don't engage. Love them and release them. That's cool.
No,
Or,
that's hard. Oh, Grace, that's hard. That's
but you know what's
hard.
even
It's hard.
harder? What's even harder is being in a relationship where you talk inside your head and you never speak out loud because you know that everything you say is a problem. They're not going
Yeah.
to hear me. That's not a relationship. That's
No, it's
when your
not.
settings, they're more important than you.
Right. That's true because you're not putting yourself. So now let's be honest. Let's go back. So you talked about the fact that you were married 3 times, and I'm sure there were
For
different
love, not the
lessons.
wrong places.
But that's what happens when you got daddy issues, right? I got daddy issues too. So
That's
you
right.
know the girls who have daddy issues, we're always looking for love in the wrong places, and we tend to make relationship mistakes, right? We don't either have a model to form our lives around, or we're just again looking for love. So, do you feel like with each of those relationships, you learned something that you were able to bring into the next relationship? And why do you think it's been 3 relationships later, right? Because a lot of people will say, okay, well, you learned your lesson the first time, second time, sure. Then you get there and you're like, okay, no, this still has its own problems and its own situations. I'm moving on. And kudos to you for continuing to move on because people give up on love. I don't think I ever will. But what did you learn in each one of them, if you can remember that far back?
Absolutely.
And how do you think those lessons are serving you today? And why did it take this long, right? Some people would say it should be one and done. It should be maybe two. But you're like 3 goes. You know what I mean? Let's get it. Let's try it. So, my questions are always still loaded,
I like
but
that. Well, I'm a super senior here on Earth. And also, I think it depends on what you're learning. So,
yeah.
back to the money, right? If you're learning to make money, that's a concept. But if you're learning to
Mm,
be abundant in life, that's a different learning.
it
So, how I
is.
said before that I learned all these spiritual things for the gram, I wanted to be loved because I was still little Gracie, whose dad was in jail and not in my life a lot of times. And I didn't grow up with him. And my mom was really young. I had all kinds of people in my life, but I didn't have anyone around teaching me that specific thing. So what was I doing? I
Mm,
was emulating what I was seeing and what I was feeling. And also, we also emulate what we don't want to see and don't want to feel. Hyper
true.
not wanting to do these things. So I was trying to learn how to be in relationship with someone, but I
Hmm.
wasn't ever learning how to be in relationship with me. So
Ah,
I was like, oh, the first time, okay, I picked someone who I felt this about, but I really need this. Okay, I need a different person. Got it. Okay, I picked
right.
this person. And being me, crazy redliner, Aries, you know,
Oh, are
I
you
was
an
like,
Aries too?
oh yeah, triple
You do?
Aries. I got Aries in three places. I'm like, including in my Venus. So I was like, oh, I'm going
What?
to manifest a completely different person. And I picked someone who was like, not it either. And then the third time, I picked someone who I felt had a huge capacity because I love to
Right.
learn and I love to grow. And it took me a long time to realize, oh, you also need to be with someone else like that. Otherwise, they're always going to feel like they're not good enough. But I
Right.
had to think that I had to learn that I was good enough and worthy enough to be
Right.
with someone who wanted to love and support me the way I love to love and support other people. So
Mm,
what was I learning was different. And that's the thing is we take learning so surface back to that math in kindergarten
right.
and fifth grade is here's a pebble and here's another pebble.
Right.
Math to be a doctor, you know what I mean? And you really need to we need to continue that level of education of our own selves, our own hearts to be in relation. Also, the number one thing that we are not taught about relationships with anyone, we all sit around, I did, write these long lists. I want this in a partner, I want this. But we only get in life what we actually are. We only
Mm,
magnetize and receive what we are illuminating.
right.
So if we are, I want someone who is spiritually aware and loves their family, and but I wasn't. So in my third relationship, I started realizing, oh, I thought I wasn't marrying my dad or being like my mother in relationship because we have to look at that too.
Yeah.
We have daddy issues, but we're also learning love patterns of the other humans that are around us. Those are our first lovers. Our first
Hmm.
loves are
Yep.
the humans that brought us in, no matter what. And so I had to realize, oh, I saw in my now almost adult son things that I did not enjoy. So I was like, I'm going to go to the source. I am going to end this relationship and spend time with my father. I'm going to start talking to that person because I need to start
Mm,
realizing what did I create? And so I started to look at baby Grace. And so, and it's not even blaming him. The reality he had. If I went into their stories, we get all of everything. This
oh,
is
for
about, my
sure.
work's about not penalizing either. It's about realizing we're all human beings. And so I started to lean into what did I do in my first love? Oh, I remember this one time he was home and he was home for and he came over to our house and I wanted to impress him because little Gracie realized, oh, he doesn't stay here because I'm not good enough. So I'm gonna and no
Mm,
one in this household is taking care of him. The lessons were like I'm 54, so I was born in the 70s. You're supposed to take care of your man and you're supposed to
right.
make sure no matter what, you didn't have needs, you're gonna make sure all this
That your
bad
man was
stuff.
fed and this and that and his clothes and your
Right.
all the things.
Who cares if you're bleeding to death and dying in the corner? You know, and again, we know where that comes from. I'm not even penalizing those people. So I had this moment where I realized, oh, I was like, oh, I'm gonna cook him a meal. But I was 6. So I got up, I got a stool, I pulled all these eggs out, I was cracking them. Then I made this meal. He sat down, he started to eat it, and I heard a crunch. I
Ugh,
found shell was in there.
yes.
And I, that moment, had put a belief in that I had failed. So what did I do? I started to be
Hmm.
better, better partner, give more, give more.
Right.
And all of a sudden, what am I attracting? Narcissists.
Yeah.
I'm
Because they'll
attracting
just
this,
suck the life out of you.
right? Because there's givers, matchers, and takers. Those are the
Yeah.
three kinds. And I realized I'm an overgiver. So
Well,
I
okay,
need
wait,
to
say
be
that
with
again, Grace. Givers and who else?
matchers and takers.
Nurturers and takers. Okay,
So
gotcha.
overgivers, when they're unformed and not healed, will attract takers. So stage in my
Mm.
life, I do business in the world, romantic business, friend business, business with other givers. Because then we just overgive each other.
Yes.
I don't. I am still a recovering alcoholic. I'm still a recovering people pleaser, fear of rejectionite. So being with takers, I still go into all my old patterns.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then
because they'll pull you into that world that you used to know, and that actually might be feel more comfortable for you sometimes.
it's
Do you know
the
what I
love I
mean?
know. It's the devil I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I had to get super uncomfortable and start to put so much more energy into my own self so that I
Right.
could be what I wanted to magnify. Do you? I get a partner that has got a beautiful relationship with their family? Absolutely not, because I don't
Right.
have a beautiful relationship with my family. So there's the work.
Right.
See what
Right.
I mean?
I
It's
do.
you know, we have this pattern. We just get scared because we think the money, the love, the things are going to come the way that we were taught, but they're not. They're going to come the way we know when we first arrived here through love,
Right.
love of
Through love.
ourselves first. feeding ourselves, clothing, treating ourselves like a diva, like a queen, like a goddess.
Mm.
What does that mean? That means a daily milk bath with flowers, and but we don't operate like that.
Right. That's not like, well, you can't really, I think realistically, you can't have the daily milk bath,
You
every
can,
day. You could, but realistically, I don't think that you can. I
you
don't think
can,
so.
you
But I
can.
think it could be different. It doesn't have to be a milk bath. It could
That's
be
right.
an amazing cup of tea at night with,
Right.
whatever, just you and your head and your mind and a book or a journal or time with your friends that you love and adore, some sort of.
Love gesture for yourself.
There you go. That's
Yes,
that's the
every
word. The
day.
love gestures. Yeah, every day. It's got to be every day. Every day. Okay, so wait, let's go back to your relationships because I know a little bit something about you and the fact that I want to say you may have complicated this love life of yours by marrying someone that was very popular, well, celebrity
That's
style.
right. That's right.
Not even style, celebrity, well-known celebrity. And do you feel like that was an added pressure for you? And did you suffer under that pressure? Because I believe it would be pressure. You've got somebody that's really well known all around, and here you are having to be all the things to this person who's already, a big personality. Was there a lot of pressure in that? And is that one of the reasons why it ended up not being the final relationship destination for you, right? That it came to an end.
Well, I believe, yes, so much there, so much
Yeah.
comfort, but every relationship will come to an end if you're not ready for the relationship. Every
Yeah.
job will come to an end if you're not ready for the job. So the ending is more. So when I was a teenager, I met this group of kids that were all becoming rappers, right? Everybody was at the time.
Everybody was a
And
rapper back in the day. Everybody was
everybody was a
going to
rapper
be
back then.
famous. Yeah.
But they did it. And so my
Yeah.
first boyfriend, my first love, was in a rap group called A Tribe Called Quest. And one of the things that happened was he
Woo!
wrote a song about me called Bonita Applebaum. And that song traumatized the shit out of me because all of a sudden his career being this big thing developing on this side, and I was helping, I was working with them as a friend, loving them all, Dela and everyone, helping with
Yes.
people I know and working on their album cover and doing all these fun things because that's what we all were doing at the time. But
Mm.
his life was blowing up and I was a chef and it wasn't combined in the world's eye until he started talking about it and that song made it like made it made our relationship be public. And that was the
Gotcha.
first time I realized that, like, oh yeah, that's not my way, that's their way. And but yet it and in those days we didn't have internet, so privacy and being an artist and creative was all kind of a thing. Like you liked
Right.
your stuff being behind the scenes. And so it was a very confronting experience. And I vowed to never do that again
Mm.
on the trail of like how I got to Usher. And
Right.
then so I went into these other relationships looking for something different and end up having a very similar situation in each one, whether the people are famous or not,
Right.
because the work was within me. And
Yeah. And
I
because if
needed
you
to-
don't do the work, you keep getting the same things. Like you said, if you're not doing the work to illuminate something different, you're constantly going to attract the same. But
That's right.
it'll look different, but it'll essentially be the same.
It'll be the same. And you'll know it's the same as soon as you start to get, we fall in love. You and I fall in love, Kimba. We're having an amazing relationship. And then in months later, we're having these fights. We're like, I don't even recognize you. Like, yes,
Right. Like, who
because
are you? I can't stand you. I hate the way you chew. Oh, girl.
we've merged past our own selves. We've talked in our
Mm.
head. We weren't honest with each other. And now we don't recognize each other. Now I've
Right.
said something that made you weird. Now you're not going to say anything. Now I'm going to change the way I feel. And all of a sudden, we don't know each other because who the hell are you? You lost the spark and magic of what I was originally excited and attracted to. And
Right.
so that is really more of the last relationship was I was so broken and I went into the music industry and I was in there for so long and that if you want someone to break you, work in the music industry.
Oh, girl, child,
So
right now, don't even say that because right now we already see people just falling apart out here with the music industry. It's
and I
just,
work
it's
with
a
most of those
mess.
people, by the way.
It's a mess.
And so when I landed in the last one, I had learned what I had failed in the last two. So I was going to
Yeah.
be better, but
Better.
better taking care of him, not better taking care of me.
That's the thing. Oh,
So
this is the
I got into
problem.
so had I met him and we both were fully formed and done our actual work and came in with like I love you because you work with how I love me.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I came in like, and you, what do you, what can, like
Right.
coming to America. I was like on one foot, whatever you like, whatever
Hopping
you like.
with the roses and the.
I was like, okay, more. And then my second husband was so verbally abusive, and that he was telling
Yeah.
me all the time what I wasn't good at. So until
Mm.
I've done inner work, I just took that as like, ever seen the show Naruto?
No, oh, is it a cartoon?
I'm obsessed. It's anime.
Oh
It's amazing.
yes, I've seen some episodes, but I'm not a, like a follower fan type thing,
It's
but I
like,
know what you mean.
you want some life coaching? Watch that show. And there's this
Really?
whole, oh my God, there's so much in there of like, you can be of service, but are you of service beyond your needs? Or are you in service? You know what I'm saying? We get these things
Yeah.
confused. And all of it ties back to being your third grade friend. Oh,
Mm.
you brought lunch, you didn't bring lunch for me. Now my feelings are hurt. Are we still friends? We got to get back there because
Right.
the grownness we have is just made us liars and false. And we're not ever actually in relationship with each other. So how do we think we're going to have a delicious life partner, incredible? I'm 70 years old. We're walking hand in hand around the world together. If we can't even be honest about our own needs inside our
Our
own selves.
our own shit, basically. We got to face our own shit, and we're not strong enough or courageous enough to do that. Like we're afraid.
Courage, that heart
That's
thing.
courage. Exactly.
Courage. So we have to take the baby steps every day, every second. Joy is a secondly practice because right
Mm.
this second, I'm feeling good. Someone can call me and tell me something horrific or spew their own pain and fear on me. But if I've done enough work for myself, I'm bubbled. I'm
Right.
like, oh, Kimba, I understand you're having a hard day. And what you said really hurt my feelings, but I love you and I know you're having a hard time. What can we do right now to either change this conversation or we go take our space and go, whatever? And when I work with
Kemba.
clients, I work to negotiate what they need,
Mm.
them and their
Right.
partner, them and their kid, because everyone needs something different in truth.
Yeah, they
And it's
do.
getting vulnerability is honesty.
Hmm.
Vulnerability is saying, I'd rather not have any of you fools if I'm going to feel the way I feel inside. I don't care what you're
Y'all
bringing to
can
the
kick
table.
rocks. I don't give a damn. I don't want no friends. If this is what friends look like, I don't want them. Yeah, no, seriously. You've got to, and people have to be brave enough to do that. Separate themselves from, like, it's the chaff, right? Whatever doesn't serve you, whatever is the filler, but not substantial enough to fill you, has to go.
That's right. Think about like Kobe Bryant,
Mm,
LeBron James. They have to win a game.
right,
So they have to have four other people with them to strategize how to win the game.
right,
They're choosing people based on their skills for what they need in that game.
right,
I argue that we also are living in the game of life. And we need a board or a starting five or an advisory board of people who have the positions. Doesn't mean you can't have friends, you won't kiki it up with someone or go out, but in your day to day, do you have people that you can speak to about the empire of me?
right.
My business is failing. Who do
Mm,
I reach out to who understands that my people ops, my human resources in me is a failing? That
I love it.
my legal team is the problem. That the
Right.
finance committee, that we have to see ourselves as these empires that are merging with other empires. There's this
Mm,
great book. There's a Harville Hendricks and Helen Hunt, or these they're older and they wrote these great books. The Keeping the Love You Find and Finding the Love You Deserve. And it blew
mm,
my mind when I read these books because they were saying that everybody is two different countries and we're all coming together. But if we don't do the first work of negotiating what holidays do we merge together, what language do we
right.
speak, what's our mission statement, every relationship needs that. And we need a deal memo that needs to change every year because we're
Right.
different.
Yeah, we're different. We're different. And I think that's why relationships aren't working because
That's
we
right.
refuse to accept the fact that we are different years later, right? I was married for almost 20 years and I was not the same. That was, I'm 47 years old. And so at 27, what the hell did I know?
That's
Right? Not a lot of much, not a lot about anything. And, I was actually of the mind that, listen, I think marriages or relationships should start looking at 3 to 5 year contracts. Like, listen, in about 3 years, we need to settle up and
yes.
start looking at, do we still serve the relationship? Are you serving yourselves? Are we serving each other? And if not, it needs to be a very honest conversation, or it's probably time to move forward. Like,
That's
I'm cool with that. I think we should all just vote and just decide we're going to do that because when you don't, you're leaving hurt, resentment, and all the bullshit to to pile up, and no one wants to address it until it's too late. And that's at the end of the day, that's why things I think are failing and not doing so well.
That's right.
but no one wants to do that work. You know what I mean? Or I didn't know to do the work at that
No
time.
one,
I didn't.
exactly. I think that's more fair. We don't know. I
Yeah,
had
we
a
didn't
friend I
know.
talked to today, and I had to have a talk with her and say, I was with her and her partner, and I was like, "You two suck right now," and I said it nicer than that, but I was like, you have to look at that, like, and but they don't want to break up for the kid. I was like, you don't think that your kid knows right now that you two are miserable, and so you think
Oh,
it's better to teach them to be miserable to stay together? No, it'd be better not to even break up, but to just get honest with each other. We're always so willing to say the thing and talk the shit at the end, but
right.
throughout the entire thing, we have to have that level of sovereignty and trust.
There you go. There you
But
go.
otherwise, it's not going to survive. And that was scary to me because, especially with my last relationship, I managed him. Our children were all intermeshed. We were together for almost 10 years. And I just felt like I'd failed the world, but I
But
came into a
why? Why
relationship
did you feel like you failed the world? This is your relationship. This is personal to you. You're a wife and a manager. Why did you feel like you had failed the world? What does the world have to do with this?
because I didn't come in caring that Grace was here. I came in to do honor of this incredible human being who's a gift to the world. And so I come into every relationship wanting to grow. That's my favorite thing. Let's have a book
Right.
club. Let's start a business. I love that, but not everyone loves that. So
No.
I was on his ass to grow every second of every day. And if he
Right.
grew, what a gift to the world. I mean, I can take this, you'll learn. We can be here 9 years, so I can go far because music actually is a frequency of our heart. And
Yeah.
actually, it wasn't until we had a war, we had a dictator who actually realized that and worked to change our music from being a heart frequency because it was too abundant. And so there's still music
Mm.
that when we listen to it, it actually alters our heart's energy. So imagine if an artist of that caliber, understanding that level, and he had the foundation and all the things that I loved. But the things that I didn't love, I was going to have fix. I was going to change. And I was going to quit.
Yeah.
It's not a
I was gonna, yeah,
relationship.
you're gonna make it better. And it could, I think we come in with this superhero complex, like I can fix it, I can change it, I can do it better, I can, manifest it differently. Girl, you can't do shit for, but for yourself, right? We can't change or manipulate anybody. And I think that, we do ourselves a disservice because we feel like we can. And so it
So
sounds like
hi.
that's what you went into it. Yeah, you're like, yeah,
Hi.
right. It's like if anybody can do it, if no one else can do it, I can. And it becomes like your mission. And I think maybe to your point, you feel like you failed the mission and you're like, oh shit,
Right.
mission over.
And then trapped. And
Yeah.
then because, yeah, it's so, I mean, I can go on and on about that, but
No, I know. And
It
then,
was also the last thing I want to say about that, though. That
yeah,
relationship really helped me do what I'm doing now because people are brutal, and people were so mean. Oh, his wife is ugly. He should have a better looking wife. She doesn't even do her hair. She's horrible. I was like 40 something at the time, and they'd be like, she's 60, whatever it was. I was pregnant for 3 years straight in certain publications, but I immediately went into like, wow, people are that sad. People would rather don't even know me, and they'd rather come for me than go inside.
vicious.
So that
Right.
made me realize, like, oh, we still are getting the fire torches and going to burn the neighbor's house down as a community rather than looking in our own selves.
Right. And
So
fixing it at the source. I would have been devastated. I would have probably cried every day, like, I'm ugly again and they hate me again. And it takes nerves of steel, it takes bones of steel. I don't even know how you did that. That's why I was saying it's so much pressure. How did you, so did you start learning about finding joy in that relationship because you had to, or does that come much later?
when I was turning 17, my mother moved to Haiti, and I was now
Mm,
and I lived in an apartment. I opened my own catering business. Life started.
right.
So I was really not in a good place then. I was scared. It was
And you're by
terrifying
yourself.
myself. So I was catering at this catering company, and I was also working for I had a private client. I was working like 4 jobs. I was working at Provisions, which is a health food restaurant in Sag Harbor, and I was going at 5 a.m. making, they didn't call it vegan then, but making their healthier breakfast items. Then I would ride my bike 17 miles to this private client, this big director. I worked for his family, and I would
Mm,
work for them, and then I would leave and go work catering jobs. And I found this little bookstore, and I had a book, The Game of Life and How to, no, Queen Latifah's dancer, Kika, she gave me this book, The Game of Life and
mm,
How to Play It by France Scovel Shin. I think her name was Frances Scovel Shin. I got to find this book. Great book.
okay.
And it just was like about life. I read this book cover to cover. It really was the first time I was like, oh, I can make it. And then there was a bookstore in town, and I bought the second book called You Could Heal Your Life by Louise L. Hay. And I read those
Mm,
books, and it was the beginning of me realizing there's another way. And
right.
then I had a friend who at 17 who took a yoga class somewhere, and I learned that. And I started very baby steps trying to lean into healing and growing and going in.
Mm,
But as I said before, it was really it was feeling good, but it was also like I started using it as this outside thing. Like in the music industry, I could justify a lot of dumbass shit that I even did because in that environment, I was like Mother Teresa because I was doing all these things and I was creating an environment and I wasn't out cooked up all night in a club. And not that everyone's
right.
doing that, but
No, no, no,
I had
no.
a
But
healthier balance with artists. I didn't feel like if artists weren't my friends, I was able to keep, and I have a lot of friends. Like I have still my first friend I ever made when I was 2, Alicia, is still my friend. So I felt like I had a balanced life. But
mm,
then in Usher's huge world with problems I never could have imagined, and
right.
I kind of am a little weirdly naive about people. I really do see the best in everyone. I was raised Quaker, and that's a concept that
Mm,
light. Everyone has an inner light. So I didn't have this concept until I was around, and I have really good friends. So
right.
if people really are out to get you and really, really wish you ill.
Oof.
I had no
Right.
idea that was really something outside of
A
like bad
thing.
reality shows, but it
Right.
was real. And so then I found myself at a moment where so much fucked up shit had happened all at once.
Oh.
And it was things were publicly being revealed that I was learning about with the public.
Mm,
So hurt and betrayed by all of that. Seeing my own ridiculousness in it and how I had morphed into this human I didn't even recognize.
mm,
And at the end of the day, my 15-year-old daughter at the time said to me, I don't like what I'm watching. She said, you are amazing. I love you. I think you're so special, but I'm watching you, including my dad, who I love, but relationship after relationship, extinguish your light for others. And I was
mm.
embarrassed because I had everything together and I
Of
didn't want
course,
to,
I'm in the
you know,
celeb world. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But
my
she's like,
career. I
this
was
ain't.
running creative and marketing at record labels for years, which is how I met him. He brought, this artist in. He signed this teenage kid. And at the time, I was feeling amazing on top of the world. I divorced my second husband. I was feeling alive, but I hadn't done enough work to really, really be growing. I really
Mm,
wasn't growing. I just was recycling, but I was masking this great insecurity and this deep fear with all this superficial stuff that I had started to learn. And I
yeah.
realized, oh, I'm not doing it. This is not for me.
This is not
I want
life. This is
to-
not
This is not my
getting you
life.
anywhere. Right. It's not
I want to
getting you
inspire
anywhere.
people. Right. I want to be a blessing. I've had such a blessed life. I want to bless others. And this is not
Mm,
from the platform from which I can do it. And
right.
so then was like, what is happiness and what is joy? And I realized happiness is this man-made construct. And it's different for everyone. And it's also can be superficial too. Whereas
Right.
joy is a spiritual concept. It's a
Mm,
communication of your heart. And if you look at many, many, many spiritual philosophies, they all talk about joy. They all talk
right.
about living a life of joy, which is communing with nature and God of your understanding. And
Right.
so I started to do a deep dive into that. And I also was celibate. I decided I was going to pull because I'm not walking out of that relationship like I was some perfect person and he was an animal. Like I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm not so proud of. And
Right.
instead of beating myself up, which is what I used to do, I decided to make amends with myself first and to look
Yeah.
at why and to take that as the beginning of a healing path. And
Right.
also lean to joy because we have a lot of rules that come from the way we were brought here to this country. And a
Right.
lot of things that keep us safe have a lot to do with never leaning into anything that's not in the Bible. So joy
Exactly.
is in the Bible.
Joy's in the Bible, and it's
So
okay.
you
Joy's
can't fight me on
repeated.
that.
Right. It's there. It goes on and on and on and on. But
So read your own book. Read
right.
your own book in truth,
Right.
in truth, and start to practice some of these joy concepts about like really connecting to source.
Right.
Because that's not woo woo. That's religion. That's
That's real.
spirituality.
Right. That's
And so
spirituality. Yeah, for sure. Now it's funny because we talked about that little cartoon meme with the heart in the cage and the brain has the key. The last component I thought was missing was the coochie, because that coochie interrupts life sometimes, child. And I think she's not connected to heart, but she masks the relationship. It looks like she's connected to heart, but she's really not. So a lot of times women use sexuality and intimacy to replace what they feel is true love and true joy and true bliss, right? And so I would suggest that we add the coochie to the little cartoon.
Let me tell you something. The coochie actually is connected to heart because in my relationships, like I do a lot of intimacy work and I work with
Right.
that they've been together a long time and they're not into each other anymore, or people who are newly in out of a relationship and want to get in a new relationship in truth. And
Right.
that coochie does a lot of lying. You know,
Yeah, that's
if
what I'm saying.
you
She's masking what we
but
think is real, and she's like, no, girl.
but she's not
But
no burden because what
right.
she's doing is she's getting lubricant. She's faking
Mm.
it. She's saying she's had an orgasm. She's having a side lover. She's having an affair. That's all lying. That's all
Mm.
her trying to ignore heart. She's lying
Mm.
because when she is connected to heart deeply, she is an ocean and she feels great and she has no problem receiving pleasure.
Right.
She has no problem realizing and being honest what's not serving her. So if we're going to
Mm.
use her as an example here and try to ignore this heart work, then use her in truth. Because I was very good at doing the porn dance and making
Right.
you feel good, and I can get you to come fast and all this great stuff, but I wasn't being served. And all these
Mm.
statistics that women don't have orgasms, we just don't tell the truth that we need a lot more time. I've been doing this
Yeah.
thing with a lot of clients that are couples where instead of because we get frustrated and we're tired and we try to
Right.
explain how it works, but our bodies are different. So instead of continuing to try to do that, I've started doing this thing where we have date night master. So if you're going to have date night, then once a month, whatever it works, it's one person does date night and the other person is just the receiver. And all they do is
Really?
receive. They are like a rag doll. When it's mine, you can carry me. I want you to give me a bath. I want you to feed me, everything. And then you do it in reverse because what happens is then women can get out of their head. As soon as they're out of their head, they're in safety where there's
Mm.
more opportunity to climax.
It's like,
And
right,
also it
exactly.
teaches their other partner that they're going to have how long it really takes. It's hours. But
Wow.
starting with feeling each other's energy and just making little circles and little smiles in the skin, looking
Right.
at his eyes, like really taking it back to the beginning,
To the
taking
basics.
to the
Because
basics and
we
the
rush
reverse.
into the penetration, right? Well, men, I believe, rush
But
more
we do too
often.
now because we
Yeah, it
lie.
is true.
In our movies now, we kiss for 1 second and then they turn us around and give us a back shot and we get back to work. But we just switch it and we even do it to the partner. So they also get a night where they
Right.
don't have to do nothing. They
That's the
don't have to
thing.
think. They don't got to do anything, but it's actually secretly teaching us what we both actually need. And
Right.
then we don't feel like we have to say anything because we don't want to say anything. During sex, it's weird. Then their egos are uncomfortable.
Right, bruised and all this other
So
shit.
give
Yeah, because
yourself the space.
right. I feel like you're right. I think that obviously the women's clock. I remember this other. I don't know what's up with me in the comic references, but this
I
other
like
comic, little snap. I mean, I'm a visual person, and it was the NASA, and you know how they have headquarters in Houston because they'll say Houston, there's a problem. And so there was this guy, I guess, at NASA headquarters in Houston, and he had this huge control board, kind of like, in the music industry, you've got the big producer boards, or I don't even know what they're called, but, they've got gadgets and buttons and all this other shit that you slide. And so at first glance, if you don't know what it is, it's overwhelming. You're like, there's all these controls, I don't know what to do. And so they said, that's a woman's body. Like all the freaking controls and all the slides, and you got to know what you're doing. And then a man's body was a light switch. It's on and it's off. And so the idea is you got to get all the slides right when it comes to women. You got to have all your equalizers set. Like you got work to do over here. Whereas the poor guys were just relegated to the on and off. And I'm not saying that they don't want more, but physiologically they don't necessarily need that much, right? To go on and come off. But women do. I don't give a damn what it is. It's you've got to start, sexually stimulating mind, body, and soul. So it's more holistic, I think, for us. And for them, it's like, show me your coochie and we're good.
But
We're good to
they need
go.
more too. They've been taught
They
some
do.
bullshit.
They do. They do.
And
They want the caresses.
prostate
Hmm.
cancer and all that is about that. Like
What?
oh yeah, how much they're just filling up and ejaculating. That's a whole nother conversation. But they're not
What?
supposed to be just like pissing
Just
in the
busting
wind.
off. Ah, so you
There's
think
so
they're
much
missing
around
the
this.
caressing and the
They are.
love and the
Like I tell women when they're in oral,
what?
I teach a class called the Oracle of Oral. It's really
Yeah.
fun. And one thing
Ooh.
I explain is that women start all the way at the rectum and just massage the perineum with
Hmm.
your tongue or your hands, but that is a lightning bolt for them and it opens up so much in their reality. So start there, take the whole process down to a massage in that area, go
Right.
spend time in the testicles, the whole shot. Like there's so much there that they don't even know to light up their switchboard. And
Right.
when we do that, it actually connects to the heart and it connects to all these other parts of ourselves. But we don't give ourselves the time and space to receive or any of that or play with that because we're all scared.
No.
And I tell my male friends, if you're once you're inside, if you're sitting there trying not to come, then you already have taken yourself out of the experience and she'll never come because now she feels you're separated. And so now she feels unsafe because she thinks she's doing something wrong and you two are
Right.
fucked. So
The whole fuck session is fucked. Oh, okay, great.
so there's that's what I'm saying. We're all doing it all cuckoo. We've all been taught it.
Oh Lord.
It's
I
all
know.
cuckoo.
What's so funny is that we do this segment on the podcasts, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but we call it Kushae Catastrophes, where we talk about something that's going crazy in the world of intimacy and sex, whether it's
Yeah.
your world or you're talking for a friend, and or something you heard. But I think this is apropos. Like we're gonna just zoom over to the Kushae catastrophe because I
I
think
think
this is catastrophic. I think this is something that we're not talking enough about. That
we're
women
not.
have to be honest about. I need more time. And it was so funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day who's dating new guys. She's online and she's trying this whole thing, and she ended up being intimate with one guy, and he's the "Did you come?" guy. I hate those guys. Did you come? Did you come? If you just would shut up.
Megan Thee Stallion has a line in her song. She says, "Don't ask me to come because you know I didn't. Like, if you had to ask me, you know I did."
Exactly. It's like, and the guys who ask, it's like, I think you're asking out of insecurity because clearly you're not able to get me there. So stop asking me that and maybe ask me what is it going to take or what do you need,
Or
right?
close
Instead
the
of did
mouth.
I do it?
Just explore
It's
each other. Just explore.
something.
Yeah. No, I could talk about this for this is my second book I'm writing is all about this.
Okay, okay, so we're gonna have you back for sure. But this is the catastrophe, ladies and gentlemen, and I think that we need to be honest about women speaking up and taking time to explore and making so. And then here's the other thing: we're in this very sensitive time with men's sexuality, and so straight men, the men that I deal with are straight, and they're very sensitive about rectal play and things that get too close to what they might consider being homosexuality related or
That's so true.
paralleled or a lot anything related in any way, shape, or form. They're nervous, they're scared, and so I think you have to also make the safe space for straight men, for those of you who are looking for straight men, to know that it's okay to relax and do some of those other exploratory things that don't have anything to do with sexuality, but just enjoying the connections that your body has already created with. So,
1,000%. I think you
yeah,
even back to taking that back to little kidness. Like you have a straight male, lie down. Why don't you just rub his head?
right,
Why don't you just like give a little ear massage?
right,
Hand massage. Let's take it all the way back to this sensuality.
right. That's
We're,
what we're
we
missing.
Foreplay is communication, actually. If you think
Mm.
foreplay is oral sex, you've already missed the foreplay. And
You could have
women
got
are
the six,
all
seven, and
here.
eight play. You'd have missed the four. Get start
That's
with the
right.
four and count your way up. You know what I mean? Lord, child, we need you. We need you, and we need the work that you're doing. Okay, so this conversation has been amazing. We have been going for a while,
I know
but
we're
I
all
love
over the
it.
place. We have to talk. We'll talk offline about this.
We'll talk offline, but I think this is going to be so juicy and so stimulating for people whose brains are going 1,000 miles a minute around. I keep making the same mistakes. I keep seeing the same patterns in my life. How do I fix this? And at the end of the day, it's never going to be fixed until you acknowledge what it is that's going on with you and start there.
Gotta
Because
feel the
unfortunately, you
healing.
keep bringing the same the same old pair of shoes into the new relationships. Burn the
Yes.
shoes, girl.
You gotta
Your
feel
new,
it to heal it.
yeah. That's it. That's it. So at the end of the day, how do you, as the author of The Joy Strategist, what do you say to people to sum up how to get started? Because I think that's where people are stuck. How do they start? Because once you start, this is a rabbit hole. This inner work business will take you a lifetime to get going. You'll never finish, right? But once you start, that's the slippery slope. That's where you want to be, and you just slide and ride it for the rest of your life. But I think it's the how you get started. So what is your advice on how to get started for people who are looking to buy a new pair of shoes, to be a new pair of shoes, you know?
Well, the way you start.
It's a heavy question. It's weighted.
Oh, it's actually really simple. It's the way you start is to just take a minute and get honest with yourself.
Mm,
Take a minute, take a walk, sit down, start doodling, draw, and start to feel into if you didn't have to make another cent ever again in your life, if you didn't have to speak to another human, what would bring you joy? Like,
right,
what would feel good to you? And it's just starting to actually hear yourself, start to listen to yourself, feel yourself. Look, when you pass a mirror, make eye contact. Just meet yourself.
right.
Just start to get to know yourself and feel how you feel. Then the second step is little practices around that. And sometimes it's hard. You can
Yeah,
do this. Sometimes I had a client who could not access one positive thing about themselves. So I said, let's sit down. Let's come up with three people that you really trust and know have your back. And we came up
right.
with, I said, send them each a text saying, can you tell me one magical thing about me?
Yes.
So we know how to do this for other people. And if you don't think you can do this, what would you say to your friend? What would you say to your
Mm,
mom who was having a hard time, your sister, your brother, your lover? Like the people that you do have kindness for and spaciousness to help them on their journey, start to look at how you help them and just do one or two of those things for yourself.
mm,
That's it. Like you have the model. You know how to be
yeah,
kind. You know how to take care of someone. You know how to nurture someone. You know how to help someone grow. You know how to help someone feel better when they're sick. Well,
right.
do it to yourself.
That's
Start to
it.
take those practices and put them on you.
Put them on you. It's giving man in the mirror for me. That's what's coming to mind. I'm like, it's man in the mirror. Come
Yes.
on, Michael Jackson. It's man
But
in the
with
mirror.
kindness. With
Yeah.
kindness.
With kind, right.
The
True.
mirror thing gets tricky because people go in the mirror and they're like, oh, you're this and you're ugly and you're
Right.
old.
Your hair, look at
No,
your hair and your eyebrows ain't
no, you
matching
go to
and blah, blah,
the
blah.
You go to the mirror and you say, thank you for helping
Yeah.
me walk around every day. Thank
Right.
you, hips. Thank you, feet. Thank you, eyes, for still working. Get to the function if you can't get to the, just small little bite sized chunks. And then if all of that doesn't work, here's what I want to say to you.
Right.
Your number one job, everyone's number one job on this planet is to be their own CEO, their own
Mm.
chief energy officer. It
Oh,
is your job to make sure the energy around you. And if you think energy is woo woo, you don't. You're missing it for convenience because you've been somewhere, a restaurant, someone's house, where you walked in and you were like, no, hell no.
the
That's
vibes
energy.
ain't right. Right. So
So
that's the right. It's vibes, aka vibes, people. If you're not getting the energy part.
that's right. And you listen to yourself. So that is a wonderful heat-seeking missile way to start. Walk
Mm,
around life that way. What do you want to eat? No, because we do that. You look at the menu.
no.
The first voice is your God voice. Stick to it. The first voice is your heart voice. I want pizza. Oh, but I'm fat and I shouldn't have this. And I should just start to use your scavenger hunt your life like a GPS by
Mm,
making you the chief energy officer of your own life.
I love
Anything
that.
energetic. And if it's uncomfortable, God, why do I feel so energetically not good around my daughter? It doesn't mean you're bad or they're bad. It means that there's unfinished business.
Right. Wow.
Conversations we have.
Oh,
You know what? Write a letter if you're not ready to talk. And you don't have to even
right.
give it, but just write it to yourself so you even know what's going on. You
Right.
don't have to
Right.
love others, but just start to make a curiosity practice of you.
I love that. A curious, yeah, every day learn something new about yourself.
That's right.
What do you
With
love?
kindness.
What feels good? What doesn't feel good? And be honest. And then have the courage to be clear about that with other people. Because I think what happens is we don't tell other people when we don't feel good or when we do feel good, and then we don't get the things we want, and then you're wondering why you're stuck. It's like you
There you
didn't say
go.
anything,
Oh, you
you
did
know?
in here, but not here.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You've got to articulate that in the best way possible, kind and considerate, but it's okay for the CEO of You
That's right.
Incorporated to get the things you want.
And one more thing about that, it's like a lot of
Mm,
people feel like it's their job that they have to make sure other people are comfortable and they don't want to say things.
mm,
You're not their God. So
right.
if you do trust any version of God or any version, if you're an atheist, any version, universe, spirit, alignment,
Whatever.
then you understand that they have their own path. And
Right.
you can't decide that your truth is not necessarily also good for their path. Because when you're in your
Mm,
truth, what's good for you in truth is good for everyone in your world, or else they're not in your world.
right. Right. And it's okay to repel the things that are not supposed to be there And I think
It's
that
your
if
job.
you're in, yeah, that's your, and it only happens when you're when you're present in your most authentic self. That the
Yes.
ones who are supposed to be with you will be magnetic, and the ones who are not will fly like oil and water. They'll just go.
That's
So,
right.
and you need to be comfortable. People are just not comfortable with that. I'm like, everybody doesn't need to be with you, around you, near you. We got to let that go, people. It's okay.
And
So,
then be comfortable with yourself.
yeah. And trusting that that's okay. Trusting that all of this, like you said, is part of that. All roads lead to following your heart.
That's
That
right.
right there for me was like golden. So much of this has been golden. Oh, Grace and Harry, darling, thank you so much. I have loved our conversation. Anything you want to share? Where can we find you? Where can we find the book? Tell us.
Thank you. First of all, I've loved this conversation too. It's so
Thank
fun to be
you.
able to talk about all the things. I
Yes,
feel like we barely, scratch the surface. And then you have
barely.
your smile alone. The whole time I've been like, I love it. It's like from
So
here
cute.
to here. It's fantastic.
This is what serves me. This is what my heart loves. This brings me joy. So hopefully you see that just
Oh, I
naturally
feel
for
that.
me. So thank you so much for being a part of that for me today and so many other days. So I
Thank
appreciate you.
you. And
Yeah.
I have a really fun website that's called The Joy
Hmm.
Strategist, which leads to
Okay.
everything else. But also the book is everywhere books are sold. I'm so blessed
Okay.
about that. Disney
Yes.
distributed the book. So it's on Disney site or
Woo!
Amazon or Anscape or Barnes and Nobles or my
Mm.
favorite, your mom and pop store. During the pandemic, we went very Amazon big, but we all have these small stores we need to support. So your local
Yes.
bookstore has it. And if they don't have it, they can order it for you.
Do it.
Also, I did my own voice recording. So the audiobook is me talking to you. So you can get that on Audible or on Apple Books. I have the Joycast. So it's on Spotify and Apple and also YouTube, where I spoke to some people in my life that I love about some of these topics. Uh,
Yes.
and yeah, so Grace Harry on Instagram and the Joy Strategist on TikTok. But yeah, start at the website, the Joy
Website.
Strategist.
Okay, and I'm sure you have every button and every link to everything else. So that is that's the hub, everybody, and then you can get to all the spokes.
Yeah.
So check out Grace Harry and her beautiful life experiences and the gems in her journey and everything about joy at thejoystrategist.com. So lovely to have you. So I'm going to ask you to hang out in the studio. We're going to tell the people goodbye. Thank you so much, gentle listeners, for being here with us. Grace, Harry, and I are going to hang out in the studio for just a little bit, but we are now going to bid you adieu. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And remember, life is all about being your most authentic self so that you too can enjoy real talk, real women, and real lives. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye now.